Hello, welcome. It's Tuesday. That means it's time for our virtual happy hour. Welcome, everybody. My name is Greg Avola, founder of Untapped here. I'm excited to have you join us. It's only Tuesday. We're getting close to Saturday and Friday, which is a big part of the week. But I want to bring in my guest today, Alisa from Rhythm Brewing Company out of New Haven, Connecticut. Alisa, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Greg, thank you so much. It's so good to be here. Really
awesome.
To join you. I really am.
Very good. Well, we're both Connecticut beer lovers here. You being in New Haven, Connecticut, I'm a little bit north over in Hartford, Connecticut here. But before we get into all details about your history and everything you've been doing with beer, one of the most important things we do with the virtual happy hour is the beer. So we are having the same beer tonight. So I'll let you describe what we're drinking in this virtual happy hour.
Absolutely. So we have our Rhythm Blue, all right here. This is the Unfiltered Light Lager. It's delicious. 4.8 ABV. I'm going to tell you, it's a summertime favorite, but it's the kind of like that introduction to that craft beer lager that people want. Like, if you're not into craft beers, this and actually the Rhythm Red, but the blue tonight is just that's the beer of choice, the blue. So
there we go. Well, I always am a huge fan of lagers and pilsners. It's like the OG style of the beer revolution here. So if you're out there tonight, you're drinking your beer, let's crack it open, pour it into your can or glass or whatever you prefer. Make sure you check in that beer on Untapped as well and use the Untapped at Home venue. It's a great way to show your support for drinking at home and being safe out there, and a great way for you to see what people are drinking as well. So I've got this pretty awesome Connecticut small state great beer glass here. Hopefully you're out there as well. You got a nice glass as well. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining and enjoy your beverage. That is really good. This is my first time trying your beer, and I have to say, this is not just because I'm talking to you live. This is excellent. This is an amazing, great craft lager. You don't see many of these made that many more because everyone's focused on the double IPAs or the New England IPAs. They're fantastic and very, very good job.
Tell you, I completely appreciate that. And that was the reason for developing these recipes for lagers. Because I was in New England and I would go to the beer festivals. I just wanted something on my palate that was kind of normal. Like I needed normalcy. Let me bring you back to the 70s. My grandmothers were both beer drinkers. And so I would see them, drink their ponies of Miller High Life. And people are probably laughing like, oh my God, Miller High Life. But that's what people drank back in the day, in the 70s. And so, as an adult, when I grew up, I was just always trying to like find something that to my palate was normal. So that's why I'm telling you the recipe design is not just, a bunch of like malts and hops, but it really has a backstory to it where it's like, it reminds me of my grandmother's when I sip on my own beer.
That's great. Love it. Well, let's actually get a little bit into that as well of your history. For people that don't know about your brewery, give a little bit of flavor of where you're located and a little bit about your brief history and where people can find your beer.
Absolutely. So I'm located in New Haven, Connecticut, but I will tell you, 2 years ago, I was adamant about just contract brewing. I said, let's
Hmm.
just not build a brewery, let's build a brand. And,
Hmm.
I think just jumping into this, I was
Hmm.
taking a ton of risks. I was in New England,
Hmm.
IPA heaven, and I'm brewing a lager. So that number one, I was just like, okay, I'm like, what am I doing? But then it's just like, instead of just jumping in and investing, a ton of money that I did not have into a brewery,
Hmm.
let's see if the brand, d- design the recipe, let's get the brand out in the market, and let's see what the public, what the drinkers, what the consumers say about it. And then we can, go from there. So it started out as a vision. It turned
Hmm.
into a brand, and then it turned into going to get some of the best Connecticut brewers here to help me with these pilot batches. So shout
Hmm.
out to the Connecticut brewers that helped me get my vision into this can of beer because it
Hmm.
was just the process was simply amazing.
Hmm. Sorry, I had to take a sip there because it's so good. One
You're
of the things.
finding your rhythm, Greg. You're finding your rhythm.
Exactly, exactly. If you joined us today, we're talking to Alisa, who is the owner and brewmaster and CEO of the Rhythm Brewing Company out of New Haven, Connecticut. If you have a question for her, we'd love to put her on the hot seat, get her some great questions that she can answer. Use your network, either as Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. We'd love to put up your questions on the screen as well. One of the interesting parts about your business, obviously, is that you've been recently named, one of the best black-owned brewery in the state of the United States, and also I believe you're the first in Connecticut, which is the black-owned brewery as well, and a woman as well. That's a pretty amazing feat. How did this all come together from this perspective of just trying to push the boundaries when it comes to brewing?
I will tell you, it started back in Cape Cod. I was
Mm-hmm.
at a festival, and I noticed a couple of things. There were not a lot of women, and
Mm-hmm.
if there were women there, they were there with their significant others. Because of course, I wanted to be nosy and be like, "Oh, are you like a beer connoisseur?" And they're like, "No, I'm with my husband or my boyfriend. I'm the designated driver. I'm trying all these beers." so but there were not a lot of women, and there certainly were not a lot of people of color. Not that that made a difference, but in my mind, I was saying, we consume, in the industry, in the alcohol industry, and I just thought more of us would have maybe been out there enjoying the social, beer festival, which it was incredible. It was lively, it
Mm-hmm.
was energetic. The bands were playing. But I just saw like, the lack of diversity as a beer drinker myself in the industry. So on the way home that evening, my husband looked over to me and he goes, "Why are you so quiet?" Because I'm never quiet. And he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "You know what?" I go, "I'm going to make my own beer." And that was
Mm-hmm.
about 5 years ago, and that's when the wheels started spinning and turning. And then I will tell you, Greg, once I started researching the industry, and finding out there were no African American or people of color brewing in Connecticut, never in the state's history. And then there was, I mean, nationally, there was only a handful. I just thought, let's make a beer. Let's get more people. Let's diversify this industry. Let's break down some doors. Let's shimmy and shake up the industry in a good way, and just present something that everyone can enjoy. So that's kind of the start of that whole mission. And when we were the first of the first here in Connecticut, it was such an honor because then I knew that I had an obligation to come out with the best product that I
Mm-hmm.
could, not just for myself, but for consumers, for all consumers who, were rallying behind me of just doing something different in the first in Connecticut.
Yeah, and I think it's when we talked about this a lot on this show about diversity in the brewing industry, and it's so refreshing to have different perspectives. That's the main part about diversity from this perspective, is being able to look at the same problem and have two different outcomes just because of where you've been, what you've been doing. So especially in the brewing world, I mean, I've always said that I look like a brewer. I've got a beard. I'm white, and that's just the way that it works. But it's great to have other conversations and talk about beer in a different way, because that's how we all get better at what we do. And it's amazing to hear your story. And I'm so happy that we're having you on today talking about this stuff, because hopefully it will inspire others. That's really what we're trying to do here is
But
diversify this area. So it's very important.
that is the goal here, and it's
Mm.
because I have had those conversations when we could have beer festivals with folks that look like you are the typical beer drinker. And
Mm-hmm.
when I tell you, they were some engaging, passionate conversations about diversity in the industry and why it was important for someone like myself, not just as a person of color, but as a woman, to really kind of get into the industry. So it has opened up the door. I always say it's really bigger than me in a can of beer.
Mm-hmm.
This is about really engaging in some incredible conversations with people in the craft beer industry and bringing in people that were once afraid to maybe ask what is craft beer because they would look to be ignorant or they didn't know what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm having those conversations and I can, explain it and they're like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is,
Mm-hmm.
this is great. This is craft beer. This is what people have been talking about. So it's great to be kind of like the conduit of that.
I like it. Well, you definitely have some fans here. This one's from a comment from Something Cool had a Rhythm Unfiltered Lager at last year's Connecticut Craft Beer Fest. So that's great to see as well. We have another comment here. This one is from Mike Becker. And I searched my local area here in Northern Virginia, but sadly wasn't able to find anything from Rhythm Brewing. Any plans to expand your market down here to the DC area?
Yes, well, thank you for the comments and the questions. And I completely missed the beer festivals, especially the one here in Connecticut. But Mike, I will tell you, I just did a collab in Virginia at Ouzelfinch, and Total Wines, one of the district managers I was on the phone with yesterday. We are going to be in certain locations in Richmond starting Friday, so we will have some shelf space. But we are looking into national distribution. I will tell you that the brand, the flavor profile, and the want of the nation of finding a new rhythm with beer, especially with lagers, has been overwhelming. So the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Looking to get some national distribution into those, definitely into those areas. So
Awesome.
hopefully sooner than later.
Very cool.
And
Very
thank
cool.
you
You
for
heard it here.
looking.
Yeah, thanks for looking.
Yeah,
Exactly.
thank
You
you
heard
for
it here
looking.
first. So Mike,
Yeah.
she's trying to get it out to you. So hopefully we'll get it out there soon. One of the things about your brand, you talk about the brand being so prevalent, and it is, you have a rich story of how Rhythm, what your backstory was of how this particular beer came to be. Kind of share with us how what music and dance comes together in this particular project for why you named it Rhythm Brewing Company.
Absolutely. So rhythm and dancing is my absolute life. 3 years old, dancing around. So rhythm, I had to do what I do. My first career, which I'm still doing, and I'm celebrating 20 years. I'm a professional salsa dancer. So I salsa, like the Dancing with the Stars stuff. Oh yeah. And I'm, I'm actually filming this. This is my Rhythm Brewing Co. office. And then in the front, I have my Alisa's House of Salsa. That is my dance studio. So in my dance business, people call me the rhythm finder. And they say, go find Alisa, because if she can't find it, then you don't have it. So I was able to and so the wonderful thing is, Greg, that I was able to merge the brand with what I was already doing. So, because I was coming up with all kind of crazy names for the beer. I mean, I have like a notebook of what the beer was going to be called. Now it's rhythm, and it really ties into putting all of my energy and my time and my rhythm into a product, but not forgetting about my professional salsa dancing career. So
That's awesome.
it's a great thing. So I'm glad we went with rhythm. People can identify with it. I think
Yeah.
people, the word, and I'm going to be I will be completely transparent with you. Rhythm is probably the hardest word to spell, literally.
I think it is. I have to admit, That's totally true because I tried to type it in a few times just to prepare for this event. And I found myself going to Google just to make sure I got it right. So, it is. I don't know why it's a hard word to spell, but it is.
Oh, it's crazy. So I'm like, if I'm going to name my company Rhythm, then at least I really need to tackle this, the spelling of it. So we're all good. It's but it again, it's about tying the dancing and the music. And it's crazy, with everything that's going on. My classes have kind of stopped, but it's allowed me to really sink in, some extra love and time into the beer brand. And again, it's been a blessing. So, but yeah, Rhythm, that's it's the movement of the flow of the beer.
Awesome. I love it. Well, let's go to some questions we have from the audience here. And if
Sure.
I want to ask Alisa that question too, make sure you use Twitter or Facebook or YouTube to ask those questions here, and we'll try to get them on the screen. This one's from Nathaniel Green. So what beer that was inspired by your interest in craft beer? What was your kind of first foray into craft beer? From what beer did that kind of bring to the table?
So I tried something here from New England. And want to give a shout out to NEBCO, New England Brewing Co. And it was an IPA. And so but it was, you can't call an IPA light, but when I tasted it, it inspired me because I said, wow, beer can be different. So drinking an IPA, going, wow, that's to another spectrum. It's like, okay, it's an IPA. I know I'm going to go for a craft lager, but just the taste psychologically threw me into, I can get into craft beer because I can get creative. I can produce a lager that's not watered down, that has great notes. And, when we did some, our ingredients, our recipes, but I will tell you, it was an IPA that really kind of signaled, this is what craft beer is. It's different. It expands. And so that kind of gave me the green light to say, I'm going to now get creative with, a lager. I mean, to get comfortable with thinking outside of the box when brewing a lager.
Yeah, I mean, and lagers, like you mentioned, are one of the original styles when it comes to beer itself. And everyone seems to have abandoned the lagers from that perspective and gone straight over to the IPAs. And, I'm sure everyone feels the same way about this, but there's just sometimes where you want a light, refreshing beer that's not going to be overpowering on you. And this is exactly what this beer delivers on that front. And, I would definitely recommend this beer if you're starting to get into craft beer and just want something to try to kind of blow away those flavors. You just talked about it with your IPA kind of, into New England Brewing Company here. And you're like, I didn't know beer could taste this way. It's the same way where I think if you try these particular lagers, you're going to have that same aspect from that perspective too. So that's pretty awesome on that front.
And I'm going to add to this. The reason, and Nathaniel probably expected for me to maybe say a lager, but I'm in New England. No one was making a craft lager. So I really, unless I make, and excuse me if there's, if there's someone here in Connecticut that was actually doing a craft lager, but 5 years ago when I started this research doing recipe design, there were no craft. I would go into contract brewing facilities and they'd be like, dude, you're crazy. You're making a lager in New England? And you're like, dude, yeah, I am. And so it just became one of those, wow, there really are no lagers. And so then I knew that I needed to kind of, I knew I was, kind of like ahead of the curve when it came to the lagers, because there was none that really I can grab and find and compare it to. So I knew there was an open space for the craft beer, here in New England.
Absolutely. I think, being a Connecticut native, there's a lot of research and opportunity that you can find in the state about the breweries that are in there. There's a comment that just came up here from the channel from Baseball Artists and said, I'm in CT. My goal is to draw every single brewery in Connecticut. I've drawn 47 so far. Pretty cool. I admire. In terms of what your inspiration when it comes to breweries in there, what were some of your original ones that you kind of saw besides New England Brewing, as you already mentioned, as like, oh, well, these guys are doing a really good job of what they brew. I'm going to be inspired by this stuff. What are some go-to brewers in your mind that you looked at in Connecticut as for inspiration?
Oh, totally. Well, my boy over at Armada Brewing, incredible. Johnny, he's an outside thinker. He thinks outside of the box. He's kind of like my beer mentor. So he's one of the first ones to come up with a pilot for us. But just creativity in the notes of the beer and the flavors that they were developing. And just to watch the process with him. So shout out to Armada, shout out to Johnny, tons of, and then of course my contract brewers who have been with for a couple of years now, Black Hog. I mean, they've got, I mean, the granola brown. They're famous for the granola brown, and so we've got some amazing brewers here in Connecticut. So shout out to the ones that are, like I said, forward thinking of beers and products and profiles of different different beers that I enjoy. I enjoy. So it's lots of respect to folks here in New England.
Absolutely. And we have some a great comment I want to put up on the screen here.
Okay.
You may have hit something on the head here from a dance class at a brewery. That could be a new way to kind of, I don't know if you're not too inebriated at that point, you maybe can find a really good dance party from that perspective. So maybe it's something to look into from a combination perspective when you get in there from that side. Pretty cool.
Anywhere I go, I will tell you, anywhere there's rhythm, there's dancing, or there's music. And so absolutely, when we, and again, it's funny, I will tell you, because we are still contract brewing, we don't actually have our own facility, but we do curbside. But we are going to have a lineup when we, do open up of live music, different genres of music, different, dances. So of course, some salsa, find your rhythm before or after your drink. Our motto is rhythm. Not everybody has it, but everybody wants it. So,
and after having a little bit of beer, everybody's got that liquid courage to be able to get on the dance floor.
Yeah,
very good.
So of course, dance classes.
Very cool. We have another question here from Kimberly Owens, and Kimberly asks, "What challenges did you face opening the brewery that you didn't necessarily expect?"
Well, I will tell you, building the brand. Because again, contract brewing, and I've had a couple of contract brewers along the way. The challenges that you face, you find out who in the industry that you kind of vibe with, and you find out industry who you don't kind of vibe with, and it's okay. You just some folks want to see you kind of build and grow, but it's just it's human nature. So challenges were finding a good place at a contract brewing facility that we knew that we could kind of like spread our wings and be creative and grow as the brand, because we went from like 15 barrels to 30. Now we're looking at 60, and potentially with stuff coming in 90s. But I thought, smooth sailing, but no, it's not like that. It's just like any other business. You jump in and you're just like, oh, okay. You got to grab your logs and your cases and, grab your recipes and just, maneuver to, another and pivot, as a brand. But, I have to get an angel investor, no one really to, the financial end of it. Everybody thought, you're getting into beer? Why am I going to give you money to get into beer? So those are the, thank God for my angel. He has been a complete godsend, that saw the vision after probably 6 months of me not giving up calling. And finally, we were finally funded. And he just said, here, I could go, let me see what you could do with this. And and that was 2 years ago. And we're excited. 408 locations later, 4 collabs, brew down in Virginia now and looking at national distribution. All of those challenges and adversities, I think has gotten me to where I am. So that's a great question. Challenges bring adversity and clarity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that it's really important to understand that, we talk to a lot of brewers on this show that are, have all this kind of cash infusion and have all these different people coming in. It's very inspiring, I would have to say, to kind of see someone like yourself that has gone through these challenges to get where you need to be and be able to kind of excel at that high level. So it's very inspiring to hear your tale on all this. It reminds me a little bit of Untapped when it first started too, because, when we first started Untapped back in 2010, apps these days are very different than it was 10 years ago. Not everyone carried around their phone like they did before. So we had a lot of trouble convincing people as well that, hey, we were the real deal. We need investment. We want to grow. And if you stick with it long enough and you have a real passion for it, good things will come. So if you're listening out there, there's two people on this particular call that have experienced that. So hopefully it will happen for you as well. So very cool points there.
I hope that encourages somebody, because again, Greg, like you said, your Untapped platform is huge. It's just amazing. Yeah. There's some days where I go on Untapped and there's some days I don't. I'm like, hormones are raging. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to touch Untapped. I'll wait till, I'm a little, but it's incredible because two small platforms that are growing, where you are obviously, just a huge platform, and where we're excited that people are coming along with us for the journey. So it's been amazing. It has been amazing.
Absolutely. I think it's just a very unique perspective. I think you have a great story when talking about where you came from, but also I love the idea of the craft lager. I know that people out there are loving their hazies and stuff like that, but a beer like this is so refreshing and crisp that you feel like it could be your lawnmower beer. It could be a hot summer day beer. It could be a winter beer. It could be a nightcap. And I think that this style to me is one that's forgotten a lot in the age of the hazies and the everything else that's happening. So it's refreshing, no pun intended, to actually have a beer like this come across, and great story on this front as well.
Well, the great thing, and the wonderful thing about the what we were doing for the first year is we were going out to see, what did people think about Rhythm? Good, bad? Did they think it was, they didn't like it? What did they think about lagers? We wanted all of it. I wanted to hear all of it. And we got candid response and candid conversation. So, lagers, bad rap, watered down, it's just, you'll drink a 12-pack, there's no flavor. And that's the reason why I made a lager, is because I wanted a lager with flavor. I needed to change the perception of lagers, especially if I'm getting into craft beer. It is like this is a gateway. It really is a gateway of people that are going, I want to go into craft beer, or should I just continue to drink my domestics, or what's all this craft beer? But all I hear about are these hazy double IPAs. It's the perfect beer to really get your palate and get ready for craft beer, because it's just, it's a classic beer, but it's just along with my brewers, it's done well. It's just a beer that it brings you back. It really brings you back. So important to, like I said, lagers live right now. We need to resurrect what the industry was thinking about, lagers. Everybody abandoned the lager ship.
Yeah.
I happen to just stay on and say, you know what? Instead of jumping ship, I'm going to stay on and I'm going to fix this. Give me a life jacket.
Well, let's go to a few more questions here before we close out our session here. This one's from David, and David asks, what can craft do to lager that really separates itself from what's brewed by the bigger beer companies? So, what is the flavoring of the beer that makes a difference in between other bigger flavors?
Excellent question. We are, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but we are an unfiltered. We specialize in unfiltered lagers, and that is the the difference. You know, we're not using the sugars, the water content. I mean, it's one of the things where if your lager is unfiltered, and this just seems so simplistic, but you're not draining the flavor out of your beer. So the big companies, because they're mass producing and mass producing, might not have the time to do that extra, or like they're filtering it. But I would, as a craft unfiltered lager girl, don't, we do unfiltered. We do our red, our blue are completely unfiltered. So even when you try the Rhythm Blue, which is an unfiltered light lager, it's not just a light lager, it's an unfiltered light lager. You're still getting the flavor. And that's what separates, us. I'm going to tell you, a lot of my IPA friends, they think my Rhythm Red is an IPA. If you don't read this, they'll be like, this isn't an IPA. I'm like, no, it's an unfiltered lager. And they go, oh my gosh. And they read it and they go, this is a lager. But yeah, separating it, it's not, keep the goodness in. Don't, it's just let it be. Let it just, and it's clear. The beer is clear. So you don't have like stuff like flying in the beer and, all hazy. So great. That's a great question.
Yeah, very good question, especially understanding a little bit about how lager is brewed. It's not as simplistic as an IPA or a pale ale from that perspective there. Let's go to another question from David. And David asks, if you give one word that summarizes your brewing journey, what is it? That's a hot seat question right there.
Oh my gosh. Exhilarating.
I like it. That's definitely, I would say, a word that most people in this industry as consumers feel sometimes when they try great beer and have a great story attached to it from that perspective and really supporting it. I've always called it the Etsy effect, where, the consumers want to be able to see, interact, and engage with the people that make the products they have. That's what Etsy is. It's just handmade products from people that are everyday people across the way. So having that same effect when it comes to the beer industry is really important, to be able to engage with the people that make it, because that's really what it's all about, supporting local and things of that nature.
Oh, absolutely. And it's key because the consumers are the most important. And I get just as excited from getting phone calls, the people that call me and think that they go, well, am I talking to the brewer? But then the stories that are exchanged are just incredible. And so let's just say every day on this journey, it's exciting, because we know that we are at a place right now where the masses, they get the beer and they want a little bit more of the rhythm. So, but the stories and the consumers, it's been incredible. It really has.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing for sure. And Alisa, we thank you so much for being on our virtual happy hour tonight. Had an amazing time talking to you. We had talked over text before this, and unfortunately we couldn't meet in person, but we're going to have to do it one of these days. We're so close. So we'll got to get it done. So I want to give you an opportunity to give any more final shout outs. People can find you in terms of, where people can buy your product or your social media accounts, but want to give you the floor.
Thank you. And Greg, thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone out there, people on tap, your consumers. They help me critique some of the things maybe that I need to improve on, or they help me along to let me know to continue on this journey. But follow us, because our journey is just beginning. IG, Rhythm Brewing Company. Twitter, Rhythm Brewing Company, Facebook, Rhythm Brewing Company. So everything at Rhythm Brewing Company. And you can always inbox me. I'm very accessible. So folks, inbox me. I get back to you. But thank you for coming along on this journey with us. We really, really, really appreciate it. And we're just looking forward to seeing what Rhythm is going to do in the future. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a good night. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for being part of our virtual happy hour. And thank you for watching on our virtual happy hour on Tuesday. We're super excited that you got a chance to check us out. If it's your first time, hopefully we'll see you back again soon, because we do these shows Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And coming up this Thursday, we're going to be talking to Andy Crouch, who is a podcast extraordinaire. He works for beeredge.com, which is a podcast specifically targeting very interesting posts that are happening out in the beer world. And we want to talk to him all about that. He is the other half of John Hall that we had that on there as well. So we are excited to have him on the show this Thursday at 7 p.m. And the following Tuesday, we're going to have Jackie Mallory, who is known as the Beardness, and she's a cookbook author with beer. We're going to have some amazing events with her at 7 p.m. next Tuesday. If you want all details on where you can find what's happening at untapped.tv, as well as the schedule of all the upcoming shows that we're doing, if you're tired of seeing my face on the video all the time, we have a podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, will be on there as well. If you have feedback about the show, let us know at media@untapped. And thank you very much for watching this evening. I'm Greg Avola, founder of Untapped, and excited to see you on Thursday, where our discussion with Andy Crouch. Thank you. Cheers.